So I'm Amber, and I'm going to be talking about planning a class for a substitute teacher. Preparing a classroom for a substitute teacher isn't as easy as it sounds. Then again, neither is being a substitute teacher. Many of you would probably think planning for one wouldn't be so difficult, right? Actually, planning for one, it takes a lot of organization and time, and you need accurate information to do so. There's things that are essential to lead for the substitute and to go over with your class. Feedback is crucial, more crucial than you would actually think. We all know that learning students' needs are pretty important. However, there are different strategies you can go with to do that. There is such a thing called substitute teacher intervention you should do prior to the substitute arriving to class. You will learn more about that as well. Taking the following factors into consideration will help prepare you for your future classes. It's common sense to know that classroom design is an important element. However, when you hear that, you probably think it's all about looks. It's not. When designing your classroom, teachers should ask themselves the following questions. How many students are attending class that day? What are the subject plans for that day? To answer the first question, take a look at your class roster. By reviewing this, you can see how many students you will be teaching. You can learn names faster, and you can also set up your seating chart. Which brings me to the next question's answer. In an article called Classroom Design by Hannah Zern, it is suggested that for group activities, you place desks into pods or groups of 4. And for lectures, you place them into columns. Classroom design isn't just important for the teacher, but for the substitute teacher as well. They can look at the roster and learn names faster, as well as see the number of students in that classroom. So maybe that'll make them less stressful to know, oh, well, it's not as many students as I thought it would be. All teachers leave plans for the substitutes that day. If the students will be doing group work, you should inform the substitutes to place the desks into pods, or for a lecture, do the same thing. Or if you already know that you are going to be absent that day, be considerate and do it for them so you don't have to go through all that work. Feedback for anything you do is useful. Whether it's positive or negative, it still benefits you. Feedback is not practiced enough by teachers. In The Power of Feedback by John Hattie and Helen Temperley, feedback is designed as information provided by an agent, like a parent, counselor, teacher, mentor, peer, anything like that, regarding aspects of one's importance and understanding. Their definition couldn't be any more realistic. Set a goal for yourself or for your students. It could be anything, as in grade 50 papers by 8 p.m. tonight, or have more than half the class get a B on their test tomorrow. Feedback has a higher success rate when a goal is set. Hattie and Timberley say that there are 4 levels of feedback. The first is including direction to improve. That is the most common level of feedback. The second level is helping the learning process of students to better understand the task. This could mean picking up the pace or slowing down the pace for a topic that you're teaching about. Third is personal feedback, your own feedback to yourself of your goal setting. And last but not least, the 4th level is personal feedback unrelated to a task. It's no doubt that giving feedback to a student is important. However, some don't like it because it causes them embarrassment. Feedback is very important when having a substitute. They are probably nervous, just like every teacher's first day in front of their class. They don't know your students, classroom, or maybe even much about what they have to teach about. Well, if you already know you're going to be on a certain day, communicate with your students. Tell them what you expect, what they'll be doing, and then a follow-up report on them will be presented. When you come back after being gone, ask the students how the substitute was. This way you're getting feedback from the teacher about the class and vice versa when you ask the students. If your class presented positive behavior, praise them. If the teacher did an effective job, let them know by phone, email, anything. We all know that we would rather have our names be known rather than being called you, that guy, that girl, person, etc. There are different strategies you can go to learn students' names. You would think basically nothing about a student's name, so what? You know the name, right? Wrong. It makes a student feel special. It reminds them that you took the time to get it down. There are different ways you can go. The simplest, look over your class roster a few times. Quiz yourself. Go over it with students, ask them questions, or anything else you can come up with. Another way to go at it is student interviews. It's one of the many one-on-one activities you can do with your students. Ask them whatever you want. Students don't mind giving nicknames, like if there's a tall guy that's named Jim and he's pretty skinny, call him Slim Jim. When communicating with students, use their name often. It helps you memorize their names faster. And lastly, there's an activity that I'm sure all teachers do on their first day of class, create an introduction activity. Have students say their name, where they're from, and something unique about themselves that they can be remembered by. For example, Brown or cell phone queen. The whole introduction activity would be very beneficial to whoever is in charge, especially if the substitute is constantly subbing for your class. They would now know students' names and hopefully something unique about each person. Have them quiz themselves, or really there are many ways they can go about student names other than the ones I mentioned. I just finished mentioning strategies for learning students' names. Now there are strategies for preparing a class for a substitute. Being a substitute is known as one of the toughest jobs in the world. So, and then there are, do the substitute teacher introduction. It's what you do with your class prior to this upcoming, ask them what they think the difficulties are, etc. Create a classroom information binder. In the binder, you do a seating chart, include a building floor plan, office and hall passes, phone numbers, emergency procedures, etc. As I stated before, being a substitute is one of the toughest jobs out there. They're confused, anxious, don't know what to expect. So I hope you take some of what was said into consideration, make it less stressful, and don't leave them hanging.